Okay, hold on. I want to read this real fast. Let's figure out. Okay. Inside the confusion of the Trump executive order and travel ban. When President Donald Trump... How long is this? Okay, let's do it. When President Donald Trump declared to the Pentagon Friday he was enacting strict new measures to prevent domestic terror attacks, there were few within his government who knew exactly what he meant. This is a problem, by the way. Administration officials weren't immediately sure which country's citizens would be barred from entering the United States. The Department of Homeland Security, the DHS, was left making a legal analysis on the order after Trump signed it. That's not a good thing. A Border Patrol agent, confronted with arriving refugees, referred questions only to the president himself, according to court filings. That's not a good thing. When I say that that's not a good thing, from what I've read and gathered so far, typically, when you go to sign an executive order, right, an executive order will have a far-reaching impact. This is a little bit of bullshit conjecture. This is just kind of my layman's opinion of what I've gathered so far, right? An executive order might impact all of these different agencies, right? Before you sign an executive order, it seems to me like the president will consult with staff. The staff will tell them, like what's appropriate for the executive order, what's the best way to formulate it. And then the president or the White House or different people of the cabinet will then communicate with different people in different departments, right? So the Department of Homeland Security, the Customs and all that, the TSA, does that all fall under the DHS? That might all fall under the DHS, right? But basically anybody that's going to be involved in when the executive order is enacted, right? What this means is that when the president finally signs and passes the executive order, all of these agencies are immediately ready to jump on board. All of the training is out of the way. All of the way that the different procedures are handled are going to be taken care of, and everything works smoothly and seamlessly. And this is how government, I think, is supposed to work when these kinds of orders are signed, right? The problem is when Trump signs an executive order and bypasses all of this, he doesn't really consult many people here, and the agencies have no forewarning, you get a lot of strange things where they don't know how to enforce it, they don't know what to enforce, they don't know how strictly to enforce it, everybody's on different pages, people don't know exactly what's going on, lawyers are showing up to contest it, and everybody's just kind of left in the dark, right? That's why I keep saying this is not a good thing. When somebody literally has to call the president, like, hey, Donald, what the fuck are we supposed to do with this shit? That shows a severe lack of oversight, right? A severe lack of oversight. Saturday night, a federal judge granted an emergency stay for citizens of the affected countries who had already arrived in the U.S. and those who are in transit and holding valid visas, ruling that they can legally enter the United States. Trump's unilateral, this is bad, right, sole, only person, Trump's unilateral move, which have drawn the ire of human rights groups and prompted protests at U.S. airports, reflect the president's desire to quickly make good on his campaign promises. But they also encapsulate the pitfalls of an administration largely operated by officials with scant federal experience. It wasn't until Friday, the day Trump signed the order banning travel from 7 Muslim-majority countries for 90 days and suspending all refugee admission for 120 days, the career Homeland Security staff were allowed to see the final details of the order, a person familiar with the matter said. The result was widespread confusion across the country on Saturday as airports struggled to adjust to the new directives. In New York, 2 Iraqi internationals sued the federal government after they were detained at John F. Kennedy Airport, and 10 others were detained as well. In Philadelphia, a Syrian family of 6 who had a visa through a family connection in the U.S. was placed on a return flight to Doha, Qatar, and Department of Homeland Security officials said others who were in the air would be detained upon arrival and put back on a plane to their home country. Asked during a photo opportunity in the Oval Office Saturday afternoon about the rollout, Trump said his government was totally prepared. This was a bald-faced lie. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not an alternate fact. This was not Trump's interpretation of things. This right here, this statement where Trump... Hold on, we can find the exact thing. Does somebody have a link to Trump saying that everything is moving along as expected? I remember watching the video, but I don't remember where I watched it. Oh, I think this is it.
President Trump speaking about his controversial executive order, one that bars 134 million people from 7 Muslim-majority countries from coming to the United States.
It's not a Muslim ban, but we were totally prepared. It's working out very nicely. You see it at the airports. You see it all over. It's working out very nicely. And we're going to have a very, very strict ban, and we're going to have extreme vetting, which we should have had in this country for many years.
We already do have extreme vetting in this country. We already extremely vet Syrians more than we do any other group of people, firstly. Secondly, everything is not going fine. Thirdly, the airports were not ready, right? So this entire statement here, I think this is very important because this is your president, right? This entire statement here, not only is it a lie, but it's easily verifiable lies. If you're ever curious, you can Google the vetting process for Syrians, right? If you want to know what it takes to get into the United States as a Syrian refugee, you can go and you can read you can watch John Oliver's funny video on it. You can go and read all the different ways, right? The process takes up to 24 months. I can pull you up a ton of articles. The process begins with a referral from the UNHCR. The UN's referral agency is responsible for registering some 15 million asylum seekers. The registration process includes in-depth refugee interviews, home country reference checks, and biological screening, such as iris scans. Military combatants are weeded out. Among those who pass the background checks, which I believe is less than 1%, a small percentage are referred for overseas resettlement based on criteria designed to determine the most vulnerable cases. This group may include survivors of torture, victims of sexual violence, targets of political persecution, medically needy. Once they're referred to the U.S., our government performs its own intensive screening, a process that includes consultations from 9 different government agencies. They meet weekly to review a refugee's case file and, if appropriate, determine where in the U.S. the individual should be placed. It's an insane. Just over 50% pass the screening process, and that's after they've been referred to from the less than 1% from the UNHCR. The whole process takes around 24 months. This is as extreme as it can get. This is extreme vetting. These are the most vetted people of any people ever used in the history of all of fucking the United States, right? So everything that Trump said in this statement was a complete lie, all right? I just to get that out of the way. So asked during a photo opportunity in the Oval Office Saturday afternoon about the rollout, Trump said that his government was totally prepared. This is the lie that we just watched, the series of lies. It's working out very nicely, Trump told reporters. You see it at the airports. You see it all over. It's working out very nicely. We're going to have a very, very strict ban. And we're also going to have extreme vetting, which we should have had in this country for many years. Okay, that's the video we just watched. The policy team at the White House developed the executive order on refugees and visas and largely avoided the traditional interagency process that would have allowed the Justice Department and Homeland Security agencies to provide operational guidance. Okay, so this is exactly the little paint thing that I just said, right? This is exactly the paint thing that I just said. The policy team at the White House developed the executive order on refugees and visas and largely avoided the traditional interagency process, right? This would be consulting with other agencies, right? That would have provided operational guidance so that people would know how to process the executive order. What is the SOP? What are the standard operating procedures when we get a person flying over here? Do we send them back? Do we keep them? How do we do this, right? According to numerous officials who spoke to CNN on Saturday, the Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly and Department of Homeland Security leadership saw the final details shortly before the order was finalized, government officials said. Friday night, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, arrived at the legal interpretation that the executive order restrictions applying to 7 countries, Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Syria, Sudan, and Yemen, did not apply to people with lawful permanent residence, generally referred to as green card holders. So that was Friday night. The White House overruled that guidance overnight. According to officials familiar with the rollout. That order came from the president's inner circle, led by Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon should have nothing to do with any of these decisions whatsoever. I have no fucking idea why the fuck this guy is involved in anything having to do with our government. Steve Bannon is the CEO, ex-CEO of Breitbart Media. Bannon was the chief executive officer of Trump's campaign. Before his political career, Bannon served as executive chair of Breitbart News. I don't know why this guy is involved in any government process. This is the guy that just recently got rights to sit at the hold on, which National Defense Council, the National Security Council shakeup, where Steve Bannon gets a seat here. I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense. This guy has no business being involved. He shouldn't have even been on Trump's transition team, really. But I don't know why he's here at anything. What is Bannon's education? He's got a master's of business administration degree with honors from Harvard Business School. Anyway. So on Friday night, the Department of Homeland Security arrived at the legal interpretation that the executive order did not apply to people with lawful permanent residence, generally referred to as green card holders. And then Trump said no to that. So the order came from the president's inner circle, led by Stephen Miller and Steve Bannon. Their decision held that on a case-by-case basis, the DHS could allow green card holders to enter the U.S. So case-by-case basis, meaning that they would have to individually talk to and consultate or consult with individual cases, right? So you have the opportunity of being turned back, even if you're a legit green card holder, even if you're a green card holder, right? A green card holder. And you could have left the United States on vacation to go visit family. You fly back, and then you get shipped back. You're not allowed into the country. There had been some debate on whether green card holders should be even allowed to board international flights. It was decided by the DHS that they could fly to the U.S. and would be considered on a case-by-case basis after passing a secondary screening. But the guidance sent to airlines on Friday night, obtained by CNN, said clearly lawful permanent residents are not included and may continue to travel to the USA. As of Saturday afternoon, Customs and Border Protection continued to issue the same guidance to airlines as it did Friday, telling airlines that fly to the U.S. that green card holders can board planes to the U.S., but they may get extra scrutiny on arrival, according to an airline official. Before the president issued the order, the White House did not seek the legal guidance of the Office of Legal Counsel, the Justice Department office that interprets the law for the executive branch, according to a source familiar with the process. This is why now you're seeing the Attorney General coming out and saying that they are not going to defend the acting Attorney General. This means the one that was nominated by Obama, or the one that was in there by Obama. Sally Yates is saying that they are not going to defend this executive order. Right now, what that actually means, I'm not sure. Does that mean that if it goes to the courts, they just instantly concede the case? You plead guilty. I don't know how that works in the courts, but the Attorney General is not going to defend this travel ban, and I think the state of Washington has already said that they're going to take this to court. This is not good. You cannot be, as the president, you cannot have the people interpreting your law on a different page than you. Why wouldn't they communicate with the DOJ? This is the EO we want to sign. We need to be on the same page so that we can defend this and push this out cohesively. It's ridiculous. So, and a side note, on an awkward thing for Trump, Sally Yates, the Attorney General at the DOJ, is the only person that's authorized to sign foreign surveillance warrants. So Yates has a little bit of of leverage on Trump there as well, because they can't just get rid of Yates without because the current cabinet picks are being held up. They haven't been nominated yet. His new guy isn't in there yet, Jeff Sessions. So it's a kind of an awkward spot for the Trump administration to be there. Destiny, the president has ultimate say on border control, legally speaking. Well, unless it gets challenged by the Supreme Court and thrown out, and enough people in Congress turn around, I imagine. But before the president issued the order, the White House did not seek the legal guidance of the Office of Legal Counsel, the Justice Department office that interprets the law for the executive branch, according to a source familiar with the process. White House officials disputed that Sunday morning, saying that the OLC signed off, an agency review was performed. What is this? This is 8 minutes.
In modern memory. So
we don't need to listen to this. A source said the creation of the executive order did not follow the standard agency review process that's typically overseen by the National Security Council. Separately, a person familiar with the matter said career officials in charge of enforcing the executive order were not fully briefed on the specifics until Friday. The officials were caught off guard by some of the specifics and raised questions about how to handle the new ban of passengers on U.S.-bound planes. Regarding the green card holders and some of the confusion about whether they were impacted, the person familiar with the matter said if career officials had known more about the executive order earlier, some of the confusion could have been avoided and a better plan could be in place. This goes back to the paint picture that I drew about consulting with your agencies so that everybody's on board with an EO that you launch. Administration officials also defended the process Saturday. They said that the people who needed to be briefed ahead of time on the plane were briefed, and that people at the State Department and DHS who were involved in the process were able to make decisions about who to talk to and inform on this. I think that this is another bold-faced lie. The reason why I think this was a lie is because it wasn't until later on Saturday that the Department of Homeland Security actually published that they were going to comply with Trump's orders. And this wasn't published until last night, I believe. It was late in the day that they published this. Why wouldn't this be published immediately? Why do you even need to publish this at all? Saying that we are going, by the way, just letting you guys know, we're following what the president said. This is, I disagree. It doesn't seem to me that the DHS was formally briefed on this, or that they knew the full impact of everything that was being spoken about. That seems to me. Bannon and Miller were running point on this order and giving directives regarding green cards, according to a Republican close to the White House. But even after the Friday afternoon announcement, administration officials at the White House took several hours to produce text of the action until several hours after it was signed. Advisor Kellyanne Conway even said at one point it was not going to be released before eventually it did get sent out. Oh, Kellyanne Conway said at one point it was not going to be released before eventually it did get sent out. Administration officials also seemed unsure at first who was covered in the action, and a list of impacted countries was only produced later on Friday night, hours after the president signed the document at the Pentagon. Anyway, everything about this screams of like dictator, fascist, whatever you want to call it, whatever negative word you want to call it, is probably going to fit. This isn't how the president is supposed to work. People keep comparing this with things like Obama's travel ban. If somebody compares this to Obama's ban, like that Stefan Molyneux, you can safely ignore everything they have to say on politics. When I use a phrase like this, you can safely ignore everything they have to say. When I say things like that, because I've said that quite a few times over the past couple of days, what I mean by that is the person that you're talking to is too concerned with trying to push a political agenda than they are with trying to get the facts right. These people are a cancer on political discourse that need to be I don't want to say eradicated like murdered, but their thought needs to be purged from the public discourse. These are people that don't deserve to contribute to the national dialect. They don't have the intellectual faculty for it, or they don't have the backbone for it, right? When Obama passed his travel ban, it was for Iraq. It was for one country, and it was specifically because two Al-Qaeda operatives had snuck into the United States via Iraq that were settled in Kentucky, I think. It was Kentucky or Tennessee. I think it was Kentucky, right? Very, very, very specific thing. So this was a specific ban in response to a specific event, and it was passed through Congress. It was legislation. It was not an executive order. Anybody that tells you that this travel ban was the same as Obama's travel ban, there's two circumstances, both of which make them equally bad. One is they are insanely ignorant and they didn't do their homework before putting out a video or whatever because they wanted to drive a narrative, they're just ignorant and stupid, or they are deliberately misrepresenting the facts to you because they're trying to push a narrative built on lies, similar to how the Trump administration will just get on camera and tell lie after lie after lie, okay? You cannot accept these kinds of people. You don't have to agree with what I say. You can still think that Muslims are bad for the country. You can think that we should ban travel from all these countries. That's fine, okay? You can think all these things and disagree with everything you want that I say, but you cannot disagree with anything that I have just said here over the past 30 minutes and feel like you're operating in good faith, right? What about Jimmy Carter and his temporary ban of Iranians? Jimmy Carter's temporary ban of Iranians was a sanction placed on Iran specifically in regards to the Iranian hostage crisis, in which I think it was like 52? It was like 40 or 50 U.S. diplomats were being held hostage in Iran for like a year and 100 days, like 450 days. That is not comparable to banning every citizen from 7 arbitrary countries where no terror attacks have come out of in the last 15 years. It's not the same thing. Jimmy Carter's ban on Iran, Obama's ban on Iraq is not the same as Trump's ban. Neither of these are the same. It's 90 fucking days. Who cares? Kill yourself. I want you to try and hold your breath for 90 days. If a student is coming back to the United States and you've been told that you need to find another place, you probably haven't even lived out of your mom's fucking house for 90 days. Try to go to another country and be told when you were planning on staying there for 2 weeks that you have to stay there for 3 fucking months. That's bullshit. It's just 90 days. Fucking kill yourself. And maybe you can make room for somebody that got misplaced during the whole travel ban. What an absurd fucking statement, dude. Trying to survive and find a place to live in a foreign country for 3 or 4 months? That's insane, dude. You're an idiot. You're an absolute fucking idiot. Anybody that says it's only 90 days is a fucking idiot, okay? Like, if you haven't even spent 90 days at your own fucking house, like, come on, dude. Or even if you have, like... Destiny, if you say one side is cancer, then it is not democracy. I'll voice my... Blah, blah, blah. But to say that everything conservative media says is cancer, I never said that everything conservative media said is cancer. I am talking about a very, very, very specific thing. I am telling you that if somebody says that the travel ban is similar to Obama's or similar to Jimmy Carter's, they are lying to you. Okay? That's what I'm telling you. They are lying. They're lying. They're lying. Not only are they lying, but it's the worst kind of lies. They are undebatable, easily verifiable lies. It's not a difference in interpretation. It's not, they didn't have all the facts at that moment in time. It is not that this is a very complicated issue and multiple things are at play. It is an easily verifiable, simple to tell lie. That's all it is. Nothing about these countries is arbitrary, though. You seem to simplify way too much. Why would we ban Iran from people from Iran or Somalia or Libya? How many terrorist attacks have happened in the United States from these countries? And why are countries like Saudi Arabia still allowed to send people here when that's where the majority of the 9/11 hijackers came from? When Saudi Arabia, when the whole Gulf states are the people funding ISIS, why are these people all allowed over here? It's political bullshit and partisan hackery, okay? Do you think Iran sends money to fucking ISIS? Do you think that Iran is funding an extremist group to topple a Shia ally in Syria or in Iraq? Iran doesn't want to see these countries toppled. Where does ISIS gets their money from? The Gulf states, okay? And none of them, the UAE, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia, none of them were involved in this ban, okay? This is a political bullshit, partisan bullshit, hackery bullshit, all right? That's all this is, okay? Destiny, there have been several memes about how several of the countries not listed are because Trump has businesses there. Is that true? I don't think that is a good vector of attack. I don't like that. The chances that Trump has done business in a country that we are friendly with is going to be much higher than him doing business in a country like Sudan or Syria or Iran, right? So while it is true that Trump has done business in the countries that are exempt from the ban, I don't know if that's the reason why he hasn't banned them. It's possible it could be a contributing factor. This is one of the reasons why we like our presidents to divest all of their interest in their companies, even though Trump has refused to do so, on top of refusing to release his tax returns, so we can't verify any of his financial background. But even with all that said, I think you can make an argument. I think you can make a legitimate argument for there to be a conflict of interest here, but I wouldn't bother because I think there are far easier things to attack. It is possible that Trump just happens to do business in all these places because he's a multi-billionaire real estate agent, and these places are places we're friendly with. It is possible that there's a conflict of interest, but yeah, I don't know.